Hello everyone and welcome to the Bearded Geeks, the weekly grab bag of topics covering movies, comics, video games and TV. My name is Jages. I am the Beard Master. With me today, it's ravishing Russell Redmond. That was pretty good. That was actually really good.
Thank you.
Russell, I haven't seen you in so long.
It has been many months, my friend.
It's been like, I saw you at my birthday, I think. Was that the last time I saw you?
Oh, I think it might have been.
That was like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Jesus. I am such a shit friend.
No, that's okay. I'm very bad at it as well. I'm not used to having them.
So good to see you, my brother.
Yeah, man. Back here in the Jags cave.
It's the Beard Cave,
the
bro.
Beard Cave.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about one of the biggest fucking movies of the year.
I think it's my... I don't know. I think it's my favourite movie of the year.
It's mine.
I think.
It's definitely mine.
But there hasn't been much competition this year because normally what happens to me is a movie will come out like a week before the end of the year.
Yep.
Like a little indie-ish kind of movie will be released on Blu-ray. I'll buy it. And then it'll be like, boom, that was my favourite movie this year.
You're just
happened twice.
You're just rocking up in your plaid shirt and just watching this movie. There's someone who fixes bikes and they're allergic to ice cream. And it's just some weird.
It's not like that at all.
Weird little indie.
Is that the Florida Project you're talking about?
I actually don't know. I'm just making it up in my head. It's a great movie. It's really good cinematography up there.
Cinematography.
Cinematography.
Is that a new term?
Yeah,
Is that a
boy.
new filmic term? Cinematography.
Anyway, we're talking about the Joker.
No, I want to talk about cinematography now.
No. Pronounce it right. Cinematography.
Have you been drinking?
No.
Only Solo.
Just this delicious Solo.
The Thirst Crusher.
The fizzy cordial.
If Solo wanted to sponsor us, fuck, I would take that because Solo is so good.
Solo's the best.
It is the best.
It genuinely is because there is no other like lemon crush. Like it's a pub squash, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's pub squash.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Russell Redmond, how many times did you see Joker?
I've only seen it once, but I want to see it more.
Same. I saw it once, and then Patty was gone like 2 hours after me, and then I said, fuck, I'm coming as well. But then I was like, nah, I won't go. But I do want to see it again before its run has ended. I think it'll probably still play for a little while yet. I might go so maybe the next week or two. Maybe.
Well, I want to help him. I want to give him, like, push it up to that billion, like, billion.
$1 million?
Push it up to that $1 billion mark.
It's made $1 million. The cinematography is off the chain.
Yeah, I look, to push it up to that $1 billion mark, I just had to buy 2 tickets because they're like a few $1 million each.
Current taking,
where we at?
As of Box Office Mojo, about 20 minutes ago when I looked, 939,798,478 doll hairs. That's a lot of doll hairs.
4 tickets and some popcorn. I reckon that'll
push it over the $1 billion.
Yeah.
I don't think Warner Brothers would make money off popcorn sales, though.
You don't reckon?
No, I don't reckon.
Oh, okay.
Russell Redmond, were you anticipating the Joker at all? Because I know
I knew it was coming. I didn't think it was going to be good. Okay. I thought it was going to be shit.
Because we've talked about it, because you're a supporter of the show, thank you very much. And you're an avid listener, sometimes listen more than twice.
Yes.
And we've talked about it on the show quite a few times. We did like half episode, like when we went and saw Terminator 2, we devoted half an episode to DC standalone movies, and we spoke about it when the first trailer came out. I was a bit on the fence about it. I didn't know. I was a little bit apprehensive, but then kind of positive toward it. You know, I was kind of on the fence,
right?
Shall we say?
Yep.
I was neither for nor against, as I recall. But once that first trailer came out and I saw it, I was like, I'm sold. I'm done. I'm there.
You're in.
This movie, literally just by the first trailer. You know when you see trailers and you're like, that movie looks shit.
Yeah.
Or that's a bad trailer.
Yep.
This was a fucking great trailer.
Yeah.
And just by looking at it, you're just like, the quality and the caliber of actor that's taken on this role, you can just looking at it, you just like subconsciously or just in your gut, you're like, this isn't going to be shit. Just by looking at it.
Especially Joaquin Phoenix, he's not going to put his time and effort into a shit movie.
Exactly.
he's going to be like, oh, I can really work with this character. I
There's
can
something
make it
here
my
I
own.
can chew on.
Yeah, so as soon as you saw that first trailer, you think to yourself, oh yeah, he's had some fun. He's definitely had some fun with this one.
From what I heard, he had a lot of fun, apparently.
Yeah. At least he wasn't like mailing coming envelopes or whatever it was.
Oh, Jesus. That was fucked. Like, did you
Jared
hear
Leto.
about the whole Jared Leto thing? About that? There was this there were quite a few articles, because this is one of the biggest movies of the year, obviously.
Yeah.
There's been so much write-up about this. Like, we got so much to talk about. Like, all the controversy beforehand, like, at Cannes and everything. Was it Cannes or was it Sundance?
Well, we got a standing ovation for like, how long was it?
It was like 13 minutes. or
13
some shit.
minutes.
Yeah.
Now, I got to call bullshit on that.
I can't even have sex for 13 minutes. Jesus.
Yeah, that's a different kind of clapping.
Da-da-da. Hey! Da-da-da.
Yeah, that whole scene where he's on the stairs, that's how long I last.
So it's like 57 and a half seconds.
Gary Glitter's not making any money off me.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. But yeah, there's been a lot of write-up about this movie before it even started. There's the violence controversy, and there are so many bloody articles in that being written before and since the movie's come out.
More like farticles.
It's one of the biggest talking points of the year, like one of the biggest pop culture talking points of
It
the year.
is. Because I've got to bring up.
Okay.
You can tell how important a meme is to the popular zeitgeist, how big a movie is by the memes. It's straight up. Like the Avengers Endgame.
No one
huge
knows memes better than
because
you.
of the memes. But then this movie, just this movie, the meme potential has been incredible. Like, there's just been so many great memes. Just that one, my favourite one is the one where he's on the stairs like that. And then there's a little version of him on the stairs next to him.
Yeah.
And it's just got written, when I'm getting pizza rolls out of the oven, and my dog thinks it's getting one as well. And the dog's just like, yeah.
Hey! Da-da-da-da. But no, there was an article I read about Jared Leto, obviously from Suicide Squad.
Oh, is that where he's from?
Played the Joker with his
Yeah.
fucking metal gnashing teeth. He looked like Jaws from James Bond.
Yep.
Apparently, he tried to have the movie shut down before it went into production. And I read, like, from this particular article that I read, that he felt it was offensive and not fair and not the best treatment of an Academy Award winner.
Jared Leto, more like Jared Let Go.
Let it go. Jared Leto. But yeah, apparently he tried to have the movie shut down. But like, fuck you, Jared.
What's he going to do? Just like, just going to mail dead rats to him until they stop?
Stop making this movie, smiley face. Hashtag the Suicide Squad, which he's not going to be in.
That was so bad.
So this is something you were definitely anticipating in that. Through listening to of this show and seeing the first trailer.
To be honest, you were the one that hyped me up for it. I wasn't feeling up for it, but then the more you talk about it, and you're just like, oh, this looks like it's going to be a bloody good movie. And I'm just like, oh, well, I guess I bloody would have... Oh, I get very easily hyped up. I'd be great in a mob. So yes, no, it was huge amount of articles popping up all over the place saying there's going to be a lot of violence because of the Joker is a naughty boy.
Thinking, you know...
copycat murders.
Yeah.
And, the creepy clown thing that happened in 2016, sort of a bit like that.
Romanticizing these
bad characters, these
anti-heroes. Not really anti-heroes. These, kind of social outcasts and that kind of thing. And the whole, you know, Dark Knight Rises, like the shootings and stuff like that. And
apparently that guy never watched the movie.
Yeah, he was just there. The only reason he went to that particular screening is because it was the biggest movie and there was going to be the most amount of people there. That's the only reason.
That makes sense.
So fair to say we're going to do... this is pretty much going to be a spoilery episode. Because 39,798,000, we assume most people, the 6 of the 7 billion people on the planet, have seen it. We're just going foolish spoilers. So
yeah, I mean, we're a bit late on it because we couldn't be fucked getting a podcast until now, and our timetables have actually synced up correctly. So we could
this
actually
is the only free day you've had.
Yeah, because I'm a dad, and
we know.
Jags is
Lazy.
very good at reading comic books.
I do all right.
Like, fuck, there is a lot of comic books out there, guys. He reads a lot.
I do okay. Okay.
And
lately.
his partner's a very happy woman too, so obviously he's spending a lot of time with her and giving her the time she deserves. So obviously he's doing something right.
Business time.
Get on the bloody workbench.
Stop it! Now, to set up the story, it's set, like, I believe the movie is set in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
But the style and that of the film is very much late 70s. Very much like those kind of late 70s era films. So very much Scorsese. Obviously, like everyone's talking about, everybody knows it's very Taxi Driver. It's incredibly close in story to Taxi Driver, actually, if you've ever seen that film. And also with sprinklings of King of Comedy in there.
Mm-hmm.
There is, like, as far as comics go, there's a bit of Killing Joke in there. There's a little bit of Dark Knight Returns in there. I'll get to that a little bit later. But the kind of premise is, you know, this guy, Arthur Fleck, is kind of like social outcast. You know, he has some particular medical issues and that, which the laugh. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this guy who lives in Gotham City. It's kind of like a bit of a tipping point, kind of in terms of like classism, like the rich against the poor. The city itself, you know, they say at the beginning, you hear over the radio when he's putting on his makeup and that, like the sanitation commission and that, they're all on strike at the moment over, I think it's like a pay dispute.
Mm-hmm.
They're not being paid what they're owed or what they're due. So there's no trash collection or anything like that. And there are a lot of great shots in the movie. There's this one great shot of where Arthur and Zazie Beetz' character, they're in a diner and it's looking from the street through the window, and there's this massive pile of trash bags like stacked up. It's probably like nearly a 10-foot high pile of trash bags, and it really kind of sells to you that kind of dirty, grimy, dangerous, seedy kind of city feel, kind of like that late 70s kind of aesthetic.
That's what they said, like with New York. You go down New York now, it's nothing like it used to be. Apparently, like Times Square was just wild mayhem, and they sort of captured that in this appeal.
So yeah, it's about this guy Arthur. He lives in the city, he has this condition. He's got a job as like a kind of like a rent-a-clown.
Rent-a-clown, yeah.
Rent-a-clown. That's what we'll call it. And
Harlequin.
Ooh, that's pretty good actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he lives in Gotham and that, and it's about his eventual transformation into the Joker through means and that happen and story beats and whatever and that things that happen in his life that pushes him to become this
Jester.
Investor Jester. That's pretty good too.
Thank you.
I like that. But yeah, you've all seen it. You know exactly what it's about. Russell, what did you actually like about this movie? What did you think of the look, kind of the aesthetic? Kind of, have you ever seen Taxi Driver?
I have seen Taxi Driver, and I can see where people are coming from in terms of like these sort of homages to it. But it sort of feels like he's done it, like mashing it together and made it his own. In that it doesn't feel like it's a direct copy. It just feels like this
heavily inspired.
Heavily inspired, yeah. But it's sort of like looking at my
films of that era, kind of New York City set films like Scorsese and like Sidney Lumet films, kind of like the look and feel of New York in that time, kind of like Taxi Driver, like Midnight Cowboy, like The French Connection, you know, kind of the look, you know, you're walking down the street and you're getting all the steam coming up from like the subway and stuff, and just kind of the look of people and how they act and the feel, the vibe kind of the city.
Yeah.
In that kind of era.
Yeah. And like it's sort of it's bright but at the same time dark.
Yes.
The lights are bright. But it's done in such a dark way. There's this sort of anxiety where they're walking around just a day street.
There's a lot of daytime stuff in this movie, actually, because majority of the time we see Gotham in any kind of Batman-related film, it's always nighttime.
Well, it's always heavy emphasis on goth with Gotham.
Yeah, because
it's always dark.
That's when Batman does his best work, at nighttime. You know, you don't see Batman roll around in the daytime in the Batmobile. You know what? One thing that really hit me, like right from the get-go, that I really bloody loved.
What's that?
It's because this film is, again, very 70s inspired by films of that era. There was no opening credits, and the title screen was just the big yellow Joker lettering, and it just took up the entire screen, just overlaid
over the top. It felt like you were actually watching a 70s film.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so good.
That's one of my cons as well that I have. I've written down some pros and some cons about Joker. I really only have one con, but I think that is just related to me personally.
Well, let's see if it's the same as me.
But let's go over what you like, Russell. Well, like, what did you like about this movie? Like, what stuck out to you? Like, what really struck you aside from Gotham and stuff? Because normally, like you say, like when we see Gotham, we get the gothic in Gotham, especially in like the Tim Burton films, which obviously filtered into Batman and Robin, Batman the animated series. We see a lot of very gothic inspired Gotham. They kind of went the different way in kind of the Nolan trilogy. In the first, in Batman Begins, Gotham felt very. There was a lot of yellows and oranges. It felt very rusty, very dirty, very grimy. Like you could just take a paint scraper and scrape all this rust and that off. But then in the Dark Knight, we kind of flipped the coin, and they shot a lot of it in Chicago, and it was more inspired by kind of Michael Mann's Heat, if you've ever seen that, from 1996.
Right.
Lots of daytime stuff, lots of Chicago, more blue hues, getting away from the orange and the yellow, more blue hues and stuff.
All I think of is glass.
Lots and lots of glass. And then in The Dark Knight Rises, I felt it was kind of like a middling. It kind of was less heat, and it was more just kind of just your standard run-of-the-mill film. It wasn't very, particular kind of color palette or anything like that. It was just kind of like, boom, city, daytime, here's what you would normally kind of see in not a generic film, but kind of just like what you imagine. It hasn't been kind of stylized or taken in a particular direction, if you know what I mean.
A lot of action, not much interaction. Like, it's just, a lot of playing.
It's more just like a background character, less emphasis on the actual city itself.
Well, that's it. Like, Gotham itself is a character in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Gotham is like one of...
And the standout character too. Like, as much effort as Joaquin Phoenix put into the Joker,
they put just as much into Gotham.
Absolutely.
Gotham is like the flip side of the Joker coin in this movie. Because like on one side of the coin you've got Joker, but then just as important a character in this movie is Gotham City itself.
Yep.
Because I was going to get to this later, but now that we're kind of touching on it, in this movie, like, you go back to Batman history, you go back to Batman lore, because obviously the Joker is a Batman character, but in this film we have Arthur Fleck, who's kind of a nearly middle-aged guy, wants to be a stand-up comedian, lives with his mum.
Has his chicken tendies.
But as far as history and Joker and that goes, it's always kind of Batman who has had a hand in the Joker's creation.
Yep.
So essentially Batman has, in a roundabout sort of way, been involved in the creation of his greatest foe, his greatest villain. So, like, you're falling into Ace Chemicals and stuff, and he falls into, like, the chemicals and the acid or whatever you want to bloody call it, and he's created as the Joker when he comes out the other end. But in this, because Batman doesn't exist, Bruce Wayne is technically still a boy, there is no Batman. So, kind of the antithesis or the tipping point or what the catalyst is in the creation of Joker is Gotham City itself. It's the city, it's the people, it's the rich and poor alike, it's the classism, it's kind of the oppression, it's kind of the cruelty of people, like kind of you like the scene on the train where he's just on the train, he's lost his job, he's sitting there in his shirt and vest and pants, and he's got his clown hair and that on, his makeup, and you've got like the yuppie bloody guys up the other end and stuff, and they're kind of like harassing this woman and shit. You know, they're kind of like look like bloody rapists or some shit like that. And then they just come over and they just start to hound him, and they just start to pick on him, and then they start to beat him up just because they can, because the guy's different. You know, he has a condition and stuff, and it's just that cruelty, you know. It's all these little things have just aided in building this character. Like the social worker and stuff he talks to at the start of the movie, like, she kind of, like, it's her job, she has to talk to him, she has to try and help him, but you kind of get from her that, you know, he kind of is a lost cause. She's not really putting 100% into it. She's doing her job, but you don't really feel like she's doing the absolute best that she could with this guy, because he's so far, I wouldn't say beyond help, but he's like, you know, he's way off, you know, being helped.
And the lack of resources to actually do it too.
And that too, exactly. So that's where I'm saying, like, you know, and then the second time he comes back, she's like, look, they've cut our budget. Yep. This is the last time I'll speak to you. And yeah, like, I can't help you anymore. And he's just like, also, well, like, where am I supposed to get my medication from? Like, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah. Also, like, the people of Gotham, it kind of reminds me of, like, there's a lack of nuance there with the people. They're all just cruel and out for themselves. It kind of reminds me a bit of Twitter.
The internet in general.
The internet in general. It just feels like a dirty, disgusting place where people are riling against each other and trying to use and abuse and just, yeah. It's just a nasty place.
It's not a very nice place to live. You kind of get that vibe. You're like...
Well, that's the reason why you hopped off Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
it's like, hang on a sec, why do I have to live here?
I just had enough of it. I'm just like, I don't want to be around this. It's like, people get on Facebook, they just end up angry or sad or depressed and just fucking upset, ranting. I'm just like, this is not... I don't want this. I don't want any of this.
Yeah, you said, I don't want to live in this society.
So I got rid of it. Yeah. I'm out of that, man.
That's it.
I'm out of that commune.
Try and send him a message on Facebook, folks. You won't be able to get him.
You get me on Messenger.
Oh, on Messenger.
I still have Messenger.
Actually, yeah, you can send a message.
Got to have a family. I got like the family chat and
Messenger's
shit,
pretty good. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, back to the Joker.
Yeah, Gotham is the pivotal character in this film. 100%.
10 points.
What did you think of... Well, let's jump over to Joaquin. Like, what did you think of Joaquin in this movie? Like, he is 100% like the sole focus of this movie. Like, there are other characters and stuff in that, but it's always Arthur's interaction with these characters. He
steals the scenes. Every single scene he comes in, he's just... You can't take your eyes off him.
No.
It's disturbing. It's stressful. But it's just...
It's meant to be, though.
Yeah, it's done so well.
You're meant to feel unsettled. You're meant to feel a little bit squirmy in your seat. It's meant to be like that. It's designed that way.
There has to be some weird German word for, like, stressful empathy. Where you just have this empathy, but you don't want to at the same time.
Yeah, like, I feel bad for you, but
yeah, it's like the opposite of Schadenfreude, where you're not getting joy out of other people's misery. It's like you feel bad for other people's, misery.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, I feel bad for you, but you're not a kind. Like, in seeing you like this, I do feel bad for you, but you're not the kind of guy I'd ever want to interact with.
No, exactly.
Like, personally for me, I really liked Joaquin's, we'll say, transformation. Like, the weight loss and stuff. Like, I haven't seen, like, weight loss in that. Like, it's not as severe, but it's getting toward that. Was like Christian Bale in The Machinist. Have you ever seen The Machinist?
No.
Man, I got that movie. I'm going to lend it to you so you can watch it. Christian Bale lost so much weight for that movie. He just didn't eat. And, like, he was so gaunt. He literally looked like he looked like Starvin' Marvin. That's who he looked like. He literally looked like, like a 6-foot Starvin' Marvin. That's what he looked like. Wow. He was so gaunt. And Joaquin is getting toward that. Like, there are some scenes in this where it's a real standout, and it's a real, it's so obvious of, like, the amount of weight he's lost. Mm-hmm. Like, the shot in the trailer where like in the first trailer where he's like, is it me or is it just getting worse out there? And he's trying to pull apart the boot, and he's kind of lynched out. He's got the bruises and his back,
just...
and you see like his spine and that like popping out through his skin and all this sort of stuff, and just like the shape of his torso and stuff. But there is this one scene in the movie, I think it's getting toward the midpoint of the movie. He's at his home with his mum, and he's sitting on the couch and his mum's sitting in her armchair, and he's got his shirt off, and they're watching the Murray Franklin show, and he's having a cigarette, and then he puts his arms out kind of over the top of the couch, and he kind of leans right back to, I think, blow cigarette smoke out, or just laugh, or just kind of throw his head back, and you see him kind of arch his back, and you just see like his ribs just poke out, and you're like, oh my god, like
he looks like an emphysemic bloody praying mantis. He's suffering. He's suffering.
There's so much I liked in this movie, though. I liked... They tried to... This goes into kind of... This is something that I really love, but I'm kind of, like, conflicted about it at the same time. So this is, like, more a pro than it is, like, there's a slight tint of con on this for me. I'll explain. I like the fact that they're trying to set up this guy. Like, you kind of feel bad for this guy, but you can't feel too empathetic, like, when you see some of his things. Like, when, right at the start, where he's seeing the social worker, and she's like, have you been writing in your journal? And he's like, yeah, you have to bring your journal. It's a point of, whatever. And he finally hands it over to her, and she's flipping through it, and there's just, like, all this, like, terrible handwriting, all this spelling errors and stuff. And then you flip the page, and then he's got, like, these
naked
pictures
ladies.
of naked ladies and that like stuck in his journal that he's meant to write in, put his thoughts in that down and things like that. And you see that and you're like,
yeah, because like once you add an element of sex, then innocence is gone.
Yes. It made me feel dirty.
Yeah.
Like watching it, like I love Batman so much, and I love the Joker. He's like my favorite villain. He's probably one of my favorite comic book characters ever. And I love all these new interpretations. I love new takes on the character. And in seeing that, like, I'm going to see a Joker movie, and it's going to be this. It's going to be like, what would happen if the Joker happened in the real world? What if the Joker was less a comic book, gas the whole city, give all the fish, poison the reservoir, and all the fish have fucking big Joker smiles and that. What if this guy was just a mentally disturbed man who eventually becomes this? And he, like, in the way of, like, the face makeup and that as well, is kind of inspired
the
by,
whole
like,
one bad day sort of thing.
Yeah, like it adds another element of realism on top of it, because his face makeup is inspired by, like, John Wayne Gacy's face makeup when he used to
Pogo the Clown.
Yeah, where he used to dress up as Pogo the Clown, and the comedy club was called Pogos, I think.
It was too. I didn't even think of that
in the movie.
That's crazy.
But yeah, going to see this, I'm like, I love the Joker so much and new interpretations, and then I see that, and I'm just like, ooh, this is like a very, very dirty, very
twisted.
Very twisted. That's a fucking great word. Very, very twisted, like, interpretation on this. Like, just adding, like, such an element of realism in that. Like, sex has never been involved with the Joker whatsoever. There's only one.
He's a very asexual character, isn't he?
There's only ever one time where I've seen the Joker involved, like, in a sexual situation or anything related to kind of a sexual situation, is in the trade of, it's just called Joker. I've mentioned this to you before. It's written by Brian Azzarello and artwork by Lee Bermejo, and it's from the perspective of, like, Joker's right-hand guy, Johnny Frost, and it's kind of from his point of view. He's kind of the narrator and stuff, and it's kind of his story from his point of view, like, interacting with the Joker and stuff. And there's this scene where he rapes this guy's wife.
Right.
And you don't see anything. It's a comic book and stuff. Nothing's shown. You just see him, like, he mentions, he's like, you owe me. I think I'm paraphrasing heavily because it's been a few years since I've read it. I've got it out there on the shelf, but it's been a few years since I've read it. But, you know, it's like this guy fucking owes him or he owes me money or something like that. And he's just like, well, I'll just take it out of your wife or something like that. Or something along those lines. I could be wrong. I could be getting this heavily wrong. But and then, like, the next panel is, like, him getting out of the car and you kind of just see his hands, like, pulling his pants up and her in the back of the car crying. And so that's kind of the only other time that I've seen the Joker.
But even then, it's used as a tactic for control. Like, it's not necessarily a thing of... Like, if he had the choice between that or the money... He'd choose the money.
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of seen of, like, this is how I hold over you, you know.
So what about you? Like, what did you think of, like, Joaquin in this?
I think it was fantastic. Like, I think he puts everything into everything he does. Like, no matter what he's doing, even if it's weird or strange, he just always puts everything into it. He works so hard that it's hard to remember the other characters. The only, like, other guys... that I think of was probably that the shorter gentleman, the little fella.
Oh, the dwarf that
he was
worked
great.
with. Like he was one of his co-workers at the Rent-A-Clown or
what
whatever
accent was it? It was British, was it?
I think he was British, yeah.
British, because like when he imitates him, he does a like British accent. But he sounded a bit Australian to me.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to look it up.
I'll have to look into it.
What'd you think of the laugh?
Oh, laugh was great. And
I
also the story behind it.
Yeah, I love that the laugh is written into the plot. I liked the fact that, well, you find out later, you know, it is the way he is, or he probably developed that because he had head trauma when he was a kid, because his mum's boyfriend chained him up and bashed him and shit like that. And I like the fact that he had the card ready. You know, that's something that, you know,
and it was
a person with a condition would probably have. Like,
it was a well-worn card too. Like,
yeah,
there
so
was
like
the little touches to show, hey, this guy holds it on him all the time. Knows when he, like, it's like a Ventolin inhaler.
Yeah.
You know, for someone with asthma.
Yeah, like asthmatic,
pull
exactly.
it out,
yeah.
You know?
And I like the fact that, like, I think my favorite scene of the laugh is the one that's in the trailer.
On the bus, yeah.
No, not on the bus. When he's at the beginning of the movie, or it's the second time he goes to, like, work and stuff, and he's talking to the guys, and one of them cracks a joke, and he's walking out, and he's putting his shirt on, and he's like, ha, 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 and then he just switches off.
Yeah.
And then he just goes back to, like, dead face.
Oh, actually, that's one of my favourite jokes. When he says, oh, I forgot to punch out, and then he starts belting the crap out of the punch-out machine.
Oh, yeah. I've forgotten that. See, it's been like a month. It's been over a month since I've seen it. It feels like an eternity ago, but yeah, I really want to watch it again.
There's just tension in it. It's just, I was laughing just because I felt so uncomfortable. But also, it had a pun, and you know me.
Yeah.
I love a pun.
I think the scene for me that was the most uncomfortable was at Pogo's when he went to do his stand-up. When he went to do his stand-up set. And for someone who does stand-up and that, like, I'm so glad I've got you here to talk about it, to get, like, a comedian's point of view.
Yeah.
But to watch that, you're like, here's the guy, here's his chance. Like, he wants to be a comedian, even though he's probably not right for it, because we spoke about this before we started. You see him sitting there, like, a couple other times in the club, and he's got his notebook there, and people are laughing and stuff, and then he starts the next joke, and he's not even to the punchline or something like that, and he
starts
just
laughing.
Laughs.
Yeah,
he like he's so removed from society and what's normal and what is funny and what isn't, that he's just laughing at all the wrong times. And you look at, like, the things he's writing in his notebook, like things like...
They expect him to behave like he doesn't.
Yeah, like a 12-year-old would write, you know, like jokes about sex are funny, and, like, just all these, like, immature and just things he's getting wrong. Like, these things are funny. Like, make fun of, like, homosexuals or something like that, or something like that he writes in there. But how did you feel watching that? Because I felt... You know, when you're watching a movie and then you realize that you're sinking down into your chair And it was just like that. That was that time in the movie for me. I was like, he got up on stage and I just kind of like, oh no. And I felt myself sink down into the chair a little bit more and just watched him. And then just the laugh kicked in and he began to laugh and it's just like, he can't control it. And just the way he plays it, like when he laughs, it's just so visibly painful.
Yeah.
Like it's really like he's really forcing it. It's being forced out of his throat. It hurts his throat.
Yeah.
He can't breathe, and it's just like it's painful. And just like the way he sells it, it's just so fucking good. It's just so good. But I mean, how did you? Like I said, you're a stand-up. You've been there. You've been a virgin comedian. You've been up on stage for the first time.
I watched that and I thought to myself, "Wow, this reminds me of my first time." Except the problem is that like I did get some laughs, but one of the things was the mic. Like he's fucked up with the mic, and that's one of the things a lot of new comedians do. They fuck up with the mic, and he's just like in his own mind, he's killing it.
Yeah,
he's killing it. And he watched it back later on because someone recorded it, and he was just eating shit.
Yeah,
and I can empathise. Like I've had gigs where I've just eaten shit, and I've just grinned through the whole thing. And go, yeah, you know these jokes work elsewhere. You're just having a bad night.
But you watch him on stage and he has his notebook and then he's like, oh, I've got another joke here, and he's flipping through it and you can see like from the audience perspective, you can see like the pictures in his book, like the naked ladies and stuff like that, inappropriate things in his book. And like his jokes are just so childish. They're like schoolyard jokes, you know, like, oh, you know, just something you would hear from a child, let alone a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the most...
Oh,
I just felt so... Like, I've never felt more cringe and uncomfortable, but at the same time, I felt so bad for the guy as well. Because, you know, like, even though he's terrible at this, he shouldn't be this, but he wants it, and he wants it so bad. And you kind of... It's that kind of empathy, like... You recognize this guy as, in a lot of ways, he's a deplorable, detestable character, but you can't help but feel empathy for someone like that. I don't know. It's just that thing in humans. Like we can see the best, but we can also see the worst in people, and just like how humans can just feel so many emotions at once. You know,
I run an open mic night here in Launceston, and we see a fair few of these Joker types getting up on stage and having a go, but our sort of scene is a little bit more compassionate. So even if the jokes don't flow right, we'll still give them a bit of a laugh to keep them going, and encourage them to keep going. Whereas, like, you know for a fact that didn't happen. Like, there is no encouragement, there is no compassion.
Yep,
the people didn't want him there, and he sort of forces himself to be there. Because he wants to. Yeah.
It's a great scene, but also so
you know what
cringe.
Scene I really liked?
What's that?
The fridge scene.
Oh, where he pulls everything out of the fridge and he climbs in the fridge. Just like to escape. Or just like
I
to
don't
want
know why,
to...
but fuck that scene. I just like watched that and I'm like, oh, that was a good scene. Just getting in the fridge.
It's almost like...
Pretend to be a bottle of milk.
I don't know. It's like just interpreting it as like he wants to escape. He's like climbing there where it's cold and it's quiet and you can't hear anything, or you just want to go in there, or you just want to die. Like, I don't know. You can interpret that a lot of different ways.
I said it as sort of a Freudian thing where he's just like going back into the womb, but it's a cold womb.
Oh, exactly. That's the thing too. We talked about this as well, and I've talked about this with quite a few people. Like, I saw this movie, and then a few days later, my sister saw it, and she, like, straight away, she wanted to ring me, and she's like, I want to talk about Joker. And then we were on the phone for, like, half hour talking about the movie. And it's
just to stop you there, how many other movies have you done that with this year?
Not many, to be honest.
Like this has been the only
maybe
movie...
Endgame. Only because it was like one of the biggest movies of the year.
Of course.
You know, that's pretty much a given. You know, you talk to people about that. But
I go to all my movies with my wife. When we leave, I have to turn her and go, that was good. And she go, yeah, it was good. And that's it. That's all we talk about the movie.
Yep.
Whereas the Joker, we were talking about it all the way to the car.
Yep.
And that's a big difference. But yeah. So you were having conversations with your sister.
Yeah, and it's just the amount of people that come out of this movie and they pull so many different interpretations or so many different dissections of the movie. Like, the movie ended and my sister, like, I interpreted it one way. Like, this is the way I saw how the movie played out. And then when I spoke to my sister on the phone, she was like, well, when I watched this scene, I got this from this and that tied back to that. And I was like, you know what? Holy fuck. I didn't even look at it that way. But the way you saw the movie and the way you interpreted it, that's just as valid as my interpretation.
Yeah.
And then I spoke to you and you had a completely different interpretation to what we both had. So I'm loving how this film has been designed in such a way, and it ties back to the character as well, which I'll talk about in a second. But I love how this movie is designed in such a way where a lot of people can walk away and take away different things from it. They can see the movie in different ways. It's almost like it's like, look, we want to design this movie so lots of people can, like, we're going to put this kernel in, we're going to do this way, and we're going to tie these scenes together. So any person, like, these are the different branches of what people could think happened during the movie. Or this is how he saw it. Or it was all in his head. Or all this, like, and they're all just as valid as each other. And I love that. Like, when has a movie done that? I can't think of the last movie I saw where somebody had, like, we all had so different, varied opinions of what happened in the movie. Like, you can see a movie, like, there can be movies that come out and you watch it and there are, like, maybe 2 different ways you can look at it. Like, I got this. This is what I got out of it. Or this was my interpretation. It was a little bit more psychological. Or, you know, this was mine. It was a little bit more of a physical interpretation. You know, this is what I think happened just by seeing the images. Well, this is what I thought happens, you know, like in the character's head, or what I got from their thoughts or their dreams or whatever they had in the movie. This is what I think this means. And there's normally 1 or 2, maybe 3 when you see a movie like that. But this has like 3, 4, 5. Like, there are so many different interpretations that people are having, and they're all just as valid as each other. Like, don't think I've ever seen a movie where so many people are getting so many different things out of it.
And also, like, not just the narrative interpretations, but also the political interpretations too. Because you look at what the media have been saying, they're saying, oh, well, you look at it, it's just a right-wing narrative for these white, disgruntled men. But then you look on the other side and say, well, no, it's a narrative, like, representing, like, uprisings of populations and sort of Antifa protests and things like that.
Or another way I got it, it's a movie about mental health.
Absolutely.
That was like one of the major like pulling points that I got out of the movie. This is really about a movie with someone who has mental issues, mental diseases, mental issues, and that needs to be dealt with. And he's at a time in, like, this country, this fictional city, which is just like a stand-in for New York. That sort of stuff wasn't looked at. There wasn't as much information. People didn't know that. They just thought you were weird. They thought you were crazy. And we didn't know how to treat those sorts of things back then.
It wasn't too far from the time when they used to just do, like, electric shock or lobotomy.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, they didn't even have a proper chemical.
We're just going to cut out this piece of your brain, mate. You'll be right.
You'll be sorted.
Yeah.
But then, you know, lobotomies, and, like, also, it came out, ironically enough, on the same week as Mental Health Week.
Do you think that was purposeful?
I don't know, because I think it's only in Australia that Mental Health Week is this week, that week. But I had to actually go down to Hobart to do a comedy gig for Mental Health Week the day I watched Joker.
Yep.
And I tell you what, it did not put me in a mind space to be fun and silly and make jokes, you know, for mental health.
It's actually really funny that you say that, because now that I remember, in going to book my ticket, because I can book my tickets online with the cinema chain.
La-di-da.
And I went on there, and it has the pricing and that. You know, it's got student discount, seniors, V Rewards members, and then it had right at the very top, Mental Health Day special. And I'm like, that's kind of appropriate.
Yeah,
you know,
but
in a
not
way,
at the same time.
but not at the same time. Whereas, even in just like doing that and people being made aware that it is Mental Health Day, and then seeing the movie, and you know what, like that movie did have a lot to say about mental health and the way people with mental health issues are treated, and it got me thinking more about, you know, like mental health and that. You're like, you know, that was as like far, just to put a label on it, as far psychotic as that movie was.
Yeah.
You know, to have it on Mental Health Day, which just to combine those two things, like to see in this movie, this guy had a lot of mental health issues, and how different could his life have been if he actually got that help, like actually got proper help.
Yeah, that's right. You know, even his mother. If his mother received the right mental health, she probably may not have adopted him.
Exactly, because we find out in the movie that he's been adopted.
Yeah,
because there's this big subplot about because she
twist on a twist.
Yeah, she used to work for the Waynes. She used to work for like Thomas Wayne and stuff. And there are hints through the movies that she, you know, she's infatuated with him. They had an affair. He's possibly Thomas Wayne's illegitimate child. And then when Arthur finally confronts Thomas Wayne later on, when all the rich and elite are actually at the movies watching a Charlie Chaplin film, which, Russell?
That's that one, I can't remember the name of it, but it's about the working class. It's making jokes about these in people in this industrialized world. All
the while, all the lower class and working class people are out the front rioting and protesting. All the rich and elite. And he confronts him in the bathroom. Like, he watches him go to the toilet. Like, he sneaks in. He steals, like, the ushers, like...
He has a lot of good scenes in toilets, doesn't he?
He does. Like, heaps. Yeah. And he confronts Thomas Wayne, and he just actually says, he's like, look, your mum was nuts. Your mum had a lot of mental health issues herself. She was infatuated with me. I sacked her and all this stuff. And then he ends up going to Arkham because he finds out his mum was institutionalized. And then he finds out that he was actually adopted. That they didn't have on there who his parents was. He was adopted, and his stepmom, his stepmother, had such mental health problems that her boyfriend at the time abused him, chained him up to like, you know, like the stereotypical thing, like they chained me to the water heater and he abused him, like he beat him and all this stuff. And then it says there in the records and that he has like, it caused a lot of head trauma. And then obviously you can put 1 and 2 together and like 1 and 2 ends up that, you know, that's probably where he got like his Tourette's laugh.
Well, it sort of brings up this whole nature-nurture sort of thing. You know, like the environment you're in and the people who raise you and the reason why you are the way you are. It was a very interesting, character study. I
fucking loved going back to the trailer again. You know, the line in the trailer where it's almost the way he says it in the trailer. It almost sounds like a beautiful, almost like transformational, like the way he describes the line, like, you know, I used to think my life was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a comedy.
Yeah.
And then Bob pointed out before when we talked about it, like the music change that happens after that. It's like this, like this uplifting-ish music. And then it changes, like he steps out as the Joker and the music just changes. It's a little more foreboding and stuff. But that line is actually in the movie. And it's where he goes to the hospital and confronts his mother. And he pulls out the pillow and he's talking to her and stuff. And this is like getting through like his transformation, because leading up to this, he's actually killed 3 people. He killed like the 3 yuppie guys that were on the train. He shot them all.
And then you had the amazing dance scene in the toilet.
Oh my God, that was so good. He's going through this transformation and then the scene in the hospital, and he pulls out the pillow and he says to her, he's like, I used to think my life was a tragedy. He's a little more sterner. He's not so flaky like he has been. He's like, now I realize it's a fucking comedy. And then he suffocates his fucking mother with his
that
pillow.
was so confronting. I'm sitting in there and
It's horrible to say. Do I sound like someone who's creating an incel or something like that? But that was so good at the same time. Like, it was horrible. But it's just like, It's that mixed emotion thing where you're like,
Cathartic. It was a cathartic release. It's
Yeah,
not
that-
necessarily that it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a release.
yeah, and it's that mixed emotion thing, like.
Well, she was that's the thing is that you look back on this
But then you
woman-
can't really like blame her as well because she had so many mental health issues of her own. She shouldn't have been a mother. She shouldn't have been able to adopt this child.
So that's the system again.
And something more should have happened. Like if they knew like she was allowing this, like he was. Well, she wasn't allowing him, but she wasn't like not allowing him to be abused by this boyfriend. Like he should have been taken away. She shouldn't have been able to like keep him, to raise him and stuff. And he's talked about how he's been in mental institutions before, which kind of ties back into your interpretation, your final interpretation
Whether
of the
this
film.
was real or not.
Whether the whole story is real or not, or he's just making it up in his head. Because I'll finally touch on that because if you go back to, I've got it right here, Alan Moore and Brian Boland's The Killing Joke.
He's holding it in his hands right now, folks.
From like, what is it, 1984, I think it was released?
He's got it in hardback.
Anyway, the Joker doesn't have a definitive origin story, which is fun because in not having a definitive origin story, I am quite fine and I enjoy people coming in and putting their own spin on it because he doesn't have a locked-in... His name was Bruce Wayne, his parents were murdered, he went away for 7 years and he trained his body and his mind and he came back and he became Batman. Boom, definitive origin story. And if you fuck with that, you upset a lot of people, you know? But because the Joker doesn't have a definitive locked-in origin story, this is what happened. He was A, that led to B, which led to C, and then D, he was the Joker.
Yeah.
That's his definitive origin story. Because he doesn't have one, because he doesn't have a definitive locked-in story, it makes him such a much more interesting character because you can't pin him down because you don't know what he's like. Is the Joker actually insane? There are so many like actual psychiatrists and stuff who have tried to like in real life who've like looked at all the Joker stuff and like tried to study him and like we don't actually think the Joker. There was one guy who thought, or like numerous people who thought that the Joker isn't actually insane. The Joker is actually what they call super sane. So he is so sane that the Joker persona is like what Batman is to Bruce Wayne. It's a mask. It's a character. It's a role he plays to protect him, to distance him. So if he gets caught, if he ends up going to Arkham, they can't diagnose him. They can't pin him down. He acts insane. He acts so different in that. And they can't, it makes him more unpredictable. They can't, you know, he can't be sent away because you can't prove that he's insane.
Well, it's
or you
like
can't.
it's like in comedy where we have a persona on stage, but we have a persona when we get off.
Yeah.
Like I should basically become a character myself when I go on stage. People know it's not real.
You just become an extraordinarily larger than life version of yourself.
Yeah, me but more.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get off stage and you go back to normal.
But that is exactly what it's like in The Killing Joke. Because The Killing Joke is the closest thing we have to a definitive origin story for the Joker, even though it's not. Obviously, this book influenced the movie quite a bit because in this story, the Joker, it shows some of his origin and stuff. Well, before he became the Joker, he's a married man. They don't have a lot of money. He used to work for Ace Chemicals, but he quit because he wanted to pursue a career as a stand-up comedian. He goes on stage. He's not very good. He flubs his jokes. He doesn't have a lot of confidence in himself. His wife's pregnant. He is trying to make money before the baby's born because the baby's due in a couple of months, but they kind of live in like a squallery one-bedroom apartment in a bad neighborhood, so he wants to earn some money so they can get out before the baby's born. And it flashes back a lot to before he became the Joker. So this is kind of like, this is what happened to this guy. All it took was one bad day for him to become the Joker. And kind of the point of this book is that the Joker... This is the kind of the infamous book where the Joker shoots Barbara Gordon through the stomach and ruins her spine and she becomes crippled and cripples her, and he kidnaps her father and like you can interpret it how you want. He renders Barbara Gordon in a state of undress and takes like lots of nude photos and stuff and that of her, and he's showing it to Jim, and he's trying to prove the point that one bad day can turn anyone insane or can tip anyone over the edge, like what happened to him. And so he tries to prove his point in that unsuccessfully. in this book, just to let you know. But there is a line in this book where Joker is he buys like a fun park, and Batman's pursuing him through like this hall of mirrors or whatever. And Joker's on this microphone, and he's like laying out some sweet ass dialogue over to Batman, just trying to like get into his head and shit. And there's a great fucking line in here, but I'm going to read the 2 panels before. So the Joker's on this microphone, and he's talking to Batman over this loudspeaker, and he's talking about like, you know, how Batman and Joker are kind of similar. You know, what drives people to dress up like a clown and parade around, cause trouble? What drives a guy to dress up like a giant bat and run around and fight crime at night? You know, so he's having this dialogue with Batman, and he's just rattling it out. And he says to him, he's like, I mean, what is it with you? What made you what you are? This is the Joker to Batman. Girlfriend killed by the mob, maybe. Brother carved up by some mugger. Something like that, I bet. Something like that. And then he goes on to say, this is the perler. Something like that happened to me, you know. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. Ha ha ha. Now, in saying that, the Joker being an unreliable narrator of his life as well, because we got a little bit of that in The Dark Knight. Like, you know, do you want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker and a fiend, and, you know, he goes off crazier than usual and he puts a knife in my mouth, and then he tells someone else, he's like, my wife was beautiful, she got carved up by the mob, I carved this smile into my face trying to make her smile, she thought I was a freak and she left me. You know, he's the multiple choice. If I prefer to have an origin, I prefer it to be multiple choice. And that's one thing I've always liked about the Joker, is that the interpretations, anyone can do their own interpretation, which I didn't feel so... I wasn't so delicate about this. I think I was in the beginning, but then when I started to think about it more, I'm like, you know what? He doesn't have a locked-in origin story. So I'm more than happy for so many different interpretations. And this personally, like, I love this interpretation. Whether people actually think that Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck in this movie actually is the Joker that we all know who goes on to fight Batman, or is he kind of just the proto-Joker who inspires the actual Joker? I don't prefer that one as much, but I like this one. But I like the idea of, some people got up in arms about, oh, you know, what if Thomas Wayne is his father? That means Bruce and Joker are, you know, stepbrothers. And I'm just like, that's actually fucking cool. I actually really like that idea, even though they didn't utilize it. That actually wasn't the case in the movie. But the one thing I did like is how they spun it on their head, where Gotham in this movie essentially creates the Joker. And then from that, from the following in that he creates from all these working people, all these lower class citizens who feel oppressed, you know, not done right, all this sort of thing. He creates this following, and he feels more like himself, like after he gets off the medication, and it's almost like he's a blooming, disgusting flower.
Yeah, when he comes down those stairs, that's when the transition's complete. Yeah,
and he finally becomes this character and inspires all this anarchy, all these riots and all this violence and stuff, and from that, you see the Waynes go down the dark alley, and then they're followed,
you see it coming
and they're
a mile
killed.
away,
So it's
boy howdy,
Gotham creates Joker, which in turn creates Batman.
So Gotham's the bad guy.
And then Batman, like, that's such
I did like that.
If you take it further, that's such an interesting spin, because Batman's all about Gotham. Gotham is my city. My parents were murdered. This is what happens to me. I dress up as Batman and I fight crime and I fight to protect Gotham so this never happens to anyone again. I choose this. But in Gotham, creating the Joker, which creates Batman, it's an interesting spin, because if Batman goes on to fight for Gotham, to fight for the people, well, he's fighting for the city that essentially created this guy, which led to his parents' murder. So it's like this sick, disgusting cycle of sexy ideas that now I'm saying out loud I'm really fucking liking.
But
that transformation.
The symbology at the end too, where he's lifted onto the.
Sorry, I just came to stop you there.
Yeah.
You ever seen the Boondock Saints?
Yeah.
And the cop's there, he's like, what's the symbology behind that? And Willem Dafoe's just like, symbolism. I think you mean symbolism. Sorry. The symbolism, Russell.
The symbolism. Well, look at the way he was like lifted like a Christ figure onto the
God
thing.
Yeah.
And you just watching this is just like, this is just dripping. Just dripping with it, with this symbolism.
My second favourite scene, because we'll talk about my favourite scene in a second and we'll go off on that. But once he is on the bonnet of the car and he finally comes to and he gets up and he sees everyone, they're wearing all these clown masks, there's all this destruction, smashed cars, there's fires in the background, and he's got blood coming out of his mouth and he sticks his fingers in his mouth and he paints the big bloody smile on his face. And I'm like, oh my God, I am so wet between the legs right now. Like, you have no idea.
Your drink, so
I've spilt my Fanta all over my lap. That's how wet
Fanta.
I am. But my favourite scene in the movie...
I will say, though, when all he wanted was some love and adoration through the whole
He just
film,
wanted to be noticed.
He wanted people to pay attention to him. Like, when you get up on a stage, the reason why you get up on a stage and grab a microphone is because you want people to pay attention to you.
Exactly.
And he got that attention at the end.
But he had to become this entity, this figure as well. We'll talk about my favourite scene, which I think is everybody's favourite scene, is the stairs.
Yes! Dun, 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 dun.
Hey! Dun, 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 dun. That is such a good scene. Like, that...
You know what? I haven't seen a scene on stairs that good since Rocky.
That is fucking true, actually.
Except the difference is it's going down the stairs rather than coming up the stairs.
It's almost
when he
like
reaches the top of the stairs in Rocky, he's reached his full climax, his power.
It's triumph.
But then when he's coming down the stairs
it's
in
like
Joker,
it's the descent.
The descent into degeneracy. But the thing is, it's so playful. It's fun.
Yeah.
You just watch him kick water in the air off his steps.
He's finally become who he was meant to be, or who he's always wanted to be. But to get there, he's had to murder and steal from like Arkham and stuff. Like, he stole the file, running from the police, all these things. He spied like a mob of followers, and that's how he finally got the attention he's always craved. Not as Arthur Fleck.
Well,
like, you can never get that attention as Arthur Fleck.
No, but
he
as
had to
Joker.
become the Joker to finally get the attention that he'd always wanted. And just that scene where he's coming down the stairs, and the song as well. What is it? Rock and Roll Volume 2 or whatever it's called?
Something like that.
Gary Glitter in that. There was a big uproar about that because everyone was like, he's going to... This bloody pedophile's going to make all this money, but that's not how it worked at all. The record company make all the money.
Exactly. Pedophiles making money, but then again, that didn't work out well for Epstein.
But tish.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh, God. Don't start on that train.
That's the meme anyway.
Don't start on that train. But yeah, that was my favourite scene in the movie. It was just...
But on the topic of that coming down the stairs, and that's who he is, that's who he's become.
And it's such a release as well. Like, you were talking about releases. It's a massive release of tension.
It's a cathartic release.
Yeah.
But, like, on the topic of mental illness, like, my mum has bipolar disorder. And that's how she describes how she feels when she's not on her meds. She feels she can be who she is, but the problem is it causes problems for everyone around her.
Okay. Wow.
She can't, like, when she's off her meds, she's happy and vibrant. She can actually talk. But then she just causes a lot of issues.
Yeah. Such a great character study, this film. And really, like...
Can I do my favourite scene?
Yeah. It's the stairways.
Oh, also, my funniest scene was in the apartment.
Which one? Oh, where his mates come to visit him. Yeah. Like his ex-work mates come to visit him.
Yep.
That was a really good scene because it felt
like that. It felt like a Hangover scene, didn't it?
Because once you saw him lock the door,
you saw it coming.
No, it's just the tension that starts to build. Like, you see him shut the door, and like, we can open a door and the door's the escape. But then when they're walking in, you just see him like lock and latch the door, and they're unaware. He's just like, you know, if they try to escape, they're going to go for the door. They're going to be locked. That's seconds wasted. They could be dead, you know. And the tension starts to build because you're watching it at this point, and he hasn't fully become the Joker yet.
No.
So at the time you're watching it, he just feels like an unhinged person, probably murderer, because he's already killed 4 people. So you don't know where he's going to go yet, because it could kind of go either way. And that scene is played so fucking well. And I don't know the actor's name. He's the dwarf.
Yeah.
But the way the scene plays out, he kills the guy who sold him the gun. Oh, the scene in the hospital where he's dancing and the gun falls out of his pocket in front of the kids. Oh, fucking hell. Jesus. But he kills this guy, and then it's the same with his guy.
He's scrambling to run away. This little person's scrambling to run away.
And you're like,
get out the door. And
you don't know how it could go. It could go either way. Like, he could just as easily kill him as well. And then he tries to escape, but the door's latched and poor bugger can't reach, unfortunately.
Oh, God,
so
I'm sorry, but I was laughing so much. Because, like, there was so much tension built up, and laughter is a tension release.
Yeah.
But by fuck did it release a lot of tension.
But it's almost like it's an inappropriate laugh.
It was. Like, it was absolutely inappropriate.
Like, it's almost like they've designed it like, this will be funny, but you will feel dirty for laughing
absolutely.
After.
It felt a bit
and
like
it's a movie that makes you feel so dirty and uncomfortable, and it does it very well.
Yeah. You've just sat there and watched it and you feel bad. But no, that latch part, and then when he turns to him and he says, oh.
Because Arthur says, he's like, you know, you can go. I'm not going to hurt you. And then he goes to leave and he can't reach the latch, and he kind of turns and he's like, Arthur, could you? And he comes over and he undoes the locks and he starts to open the door, but then he closes it and holds it shut with his hand still on the door handle. And he says to him, I forget the character's name, but he just says to him, he's like, look, he's like, you're always really good to me. You're the only person who was ever nice to me. And then he just opens the door and he lets him go. And you're like, you know, see what happens, like, in this world and in this film. You just be nice to people.
I think I'm going to be a bit nicer to people. Like, once you leave there, you just be a little bit nicer to people.
Yeah. Like, you know, you see what happens to the evil people in this movie, but then the 1 or 2 times, like, pretty much the one time, you see something happen to pretty much like the most normal person in the movie. He's literally just a regular guy with a regular job, and he's not larger than life or anything. Oh, Jesus.
Wow, Jakes!
No, I didn't. You know, he wasn't like an over-the-top like character.
No,
or something.
he seemed like
he just felt like a normal, regular guy that you worked with.
Yeah.
And he was just like a regular person who just kind of cared about his coworker and stuff, come to see him after his mum died, air quotes. And he was just...
He
was
didn't
always
feel
nice
like he was
to
a
him.
part of that universe.
No.
He felt like he was
He felt like the one person who was out. Like, the one person who was nice in this movie that didn't really belong.
I think
like
he's
the
the
only
only
nice
person-
person in Gotham City.
He's the only person that could possibly do jury duty. Like, because everyone seems like they're evil. You know?
And then the whole... Like, I really love that scene too. But then the whole... like Zazie Beetz' character, I forget what her name was, Sarah.
Oh, of course, yeah,
Sarah
Can't
Rose or
forget
anything like that.
the love interest, yeah.
And then, like, all the scenes where, you know, like, after he's killed the 3 guys in the dance in the bathroom, and then he goes back and he knocks on a door and he's kissing her, and then they go in and you assume they have sex and stuff, and then she's with him, she goes to stand up with him, and then later on when his mum's in hospital, and she's there with him, and then you find out later that he's just imagined the whole thing. It's just, that's the ideal scenario he wanted, but it never happened. And then when he goes to see her later in the film, she's like, you're that guy that lives up the hall. What are you doing here in my house?
Created an entire relationship in his head.
Yeah, exactly. And that feeds into the ending of the movie as well.
Exactly.
Like, did all this stuff actually happen? Like, we've seen in the movie how he creates these scenarios, like where he's watching the Murray Franklin show at the start, and he pictures himself, he's in the audience, and then Murray talks to him.
But
and
you watch everyone in the crowd, the way they react to him in his dreams is not how they react to him in reality.
No.
They act like he's normal.
Yeah.
But then in reality, they don't treat him like he's normal.
No, not at all.
So it's a bit hard to believe the whole thing is just made up.
Even his workmates and that. Like, if you notice the setup in, like, I think it's the first scene where he's in at his like workstation at like his desk with the mirror and stuff, and he's putting his makeup and that on, and the camera's just like slowly pushing in, and you see him there, and he's doing that, and he does like the smile. He holds up his the corners of his mouth, and
then
smile,
one tear runs down,
and you see
his
the
eye.
one tear run down, and then the scene starts to play out, and you see all his co-workers. They're sitting over at the table. I think they're playing cards or something like that, and then you see all their workstations. They're all together. They're all next to each other, side by side. And it's almost like he's segregated away from everyone else. Like he's over on the other side of the room on his own.
That's
because they even say, like his boss says to him when he goes into his office, like, you know, everyone thinks you're weird and all this sort of stuff, and no one wants to talk to you or be near you or anything like that. But I feel bad for you, so I've given you a job and stuff. And like when his sign's destroyed and he tries to tell him like these kids attacked me and they smash. Well, why the fuck would they smash the sign? You got to bring it back or I'm going to take it out of your paycheck and stuff. And you're just like, geez, just like the way that's set up. Like even in there, like he's segregated. He's kept away from everyone else. Like he's in a work environment where he has to interact with fellow co-workers and stuff. But even then, he's kept at a distance. He's kept at arm's length, you know, from everyone else. So it's just some of that smaller stuff, which was really interesting to see, just to pick up on, and that as well. And yeah, the Murray Franklin show vision, and then he gets pulled out of the audience, and he's down there, and Murray puts his arm around him. It's almost like the whole, you know, the guy's got daddy issues, he's never had a father and stuff, and he's kind of projecting kind of that father-ish role onto Murray as well. And then when he finds out about possibly Thomas, and, you know, he pushes that onto Thomas. And then eventually after the stand-up gig and it's filmed, and then they start to show it on the Murray Franklin show, and then he gets invited onto the show. And, you know, eventually he gets on there and he just says to him, he's like, look, you played this footage of me and you only wanted me on here because you thought I was like stupid and funny, and all you guys did was make fun of me, and this is just another opportunity for you to do that. Like, he goes on that show planning to kill himself.
Yep.
Like, you see him rehearsing it, like he's playing and how he's going to walk out. Like,
yeah.
He plays the tape, and then he walks out of the room, and he sits down, and he tries to like, hey, Murray, how are you? And he's like trying to play it over in his head to get it perfect and stuff, how he wants to act when he goes out there. But then when he becomes the Joker and he turns up in full makeup and stuff, and they're just like, what the hell are you doing? They're like, this is part of my new act or whatever. And it's like, when you introduce me, can you introduce me as Joker?
Because you called me a Joker.
Yeah, because you called me a Joker. Like, and then he gets invited out. And there's like this, the talk show scene is somewhat reminiscent of a scene from The Dark Knight Returns, where... Because in The Dark Knight Returns, Batman's retired. He hasn't been Batman for like 10 or 15 years. And then the Gotham's a little bit more futurist, a little bit more in the future. There are like all these mutant gangs and that like starting to take over the city and cause a lot of trouble. So Batman eventually comes out of retirement and he comes back and he becomes Batman again. He's old guy. And the Joker's in Arkham, I believe, but he's in a catatonic state, and he has been for the whole time Batman's gone. But then once Batman comes back and he sees him on the TV, he comes out of his catatonia, of his catatonic state, his catatonia, or however you pronounce it, and he comes back to normal, he's speaking and all this stuff, and this psychiatrist feels like he can... he's rehabilitated the Joker and all this sort of stuff, and they're having these sessions and it's all going really well, and he's acting kind of normal, and then eventually he goes on this talk show, and he's there, and he ends up killing everyone in the audience. He lets out like the Joker gas, and kills all the audience, kills the talk show host, and the scene in this was like somewhat, I assume, inspired by that scene in The Dark Knight Returns. He goes on this talk show. He doesn't kill everyone, but he does eventually kill Murray on the show. And just where they're taking the piss out of him, and he does that laugh where he's saying these, ha ha ha, you know, he does that. Oh man, it's so good, but just so awkward and unsettling at the same time.
Well, that's the thing, Jags, is that you've made a lot of fun of me in the past, and you've decided to get me on the show today, and I just want to say, mate, do you know what you get when you cross a comedian with a podcast? You know what you get when you cross that? What? You get a very good episode today.
Yeah, it's going all right. I feel like I'm doing...
You were getting a bit concerned there. You started to lean back in chair. What's going on?
I'm starting to feel like Robert De Niro in the movie. But then he admits, like, on the show that, he murdered these guys. And then,
That was weird. That was weird. Like almost like he half believed him.
Yeah, but it's almost like that time that the film's set. That he easily gets a gun onto the soundstage. He brings it on. No forms of detection. No real harsh security or anything like that. And if that happened today, and he said, "I murdered those 3 people in that famous murder case from a couple of weeks ago." Would they keep filming? Would the television station just like, cut it, go to commercial, cut it straight away, get away from that guy, bring security in straight away?
Well, they would have had the 8-second delay.
That too.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about my con. The one thing that I did and did not like.
Oh, what was your con?
The only thing that I didn't... It's not that I didn't like it. It's more the fact that I'm watching this movie. I've seen Taxi Driver. I know what that film looks like. I know what 70s New York looks like. It looks dirty. It looks dangerous. Like, all these movies, like those movies, they're just filming on the street. They haven't got a permit or anything like that. Maybe they do. They're just walking down the street. And everybody else they're not actors or anything. They're just regular people on the street. Here's Robert De Niro walking down the street. He's got a big fucking mohawk and shit. And you look at it and you're like, that's real. That's fucking real 70s New York there in the background. Same with like Midnight Cowboy, the whole I'm walking here scene. That was totally improv because they had the camera set up one end of the street and Dustin Hoffman and that were walking down the street and he went to cross the street and the taxi went to go in front of him and nearly run him over and the whole, boom, I'm walking here. That was improv. He just slammed, he just actually happened to say that, slammed on the bonnet of the car. Hey, I'm walking here. And that's like that's like the most famous line from that movie, And like you see these streets and they're real. And I watch this and I know this movie is like 70s inspired. It's going for that whole appeal. But I really loved it. Like I 99% loved it. But that 1%, that little kernel in the back of my mind was just like, this is artificial. This is fake. Yeah. This is made up. This is made to look like that. This is not real. So I do feel that danger, but I think it's just that annoying movie guy thing that I have that in the back of my mind, I just go, I know this isn't real. It's artificial. But I feel like because I've only watched the movie the once, and I feel like if I watch it again, that's going to be totally gone because I'm going to watch it and I'm just going to be like, yeah, this is great. Like, I totally fucking love it. I love it. Like 99.5%. It's just that tiny little 0.5% where I'm just in the back of my mind. I know it's artifice. It's not real. It's artificial. It's just made to look dangerous.
When you get a photocopy of a photocopy, it's not a direct photocopy of that photocopy because it loses its integrity over time.
Oh my God.
I think it's a bit like that,
Yeah,
it is a photocopy of a photocopy.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a perfect photocopy.
Yeah.
But it's going to be as close as it possibly could be.
Yeah, that is such a good analogy.
Thanks.
That is so good.
Yeah. I had to use a photocopy today. That's why I thought of it.
Let's talk about the aftermath of the movie now. The
stairs. all the deaths. Oh no, sorry.
Let's talk about the stairs because the stairs in the Bronx now have become a massive, massive tourist attraction.
Tourist attraction.
If you look it up in Google Maps, it comes up as Joker stairs.
Really?
Yeah, like someone's input it into Google Maps and stuff. And I've seen photos of cosplayers dressing up, their interpretations of Joker, going there having photo shoots, tourists and that. I read an article where, nobody goes that far north of whatever street. They only go as far as like Yankee Stadium. That's as far as most people will go, like tourists and stuff.
Yeah.
But now they're going further up into the Bronx and stuff so they can go to and visit the staircase from this movie.
Yes.
And a lot of people are going. Like, I'm seeing videos and stuff. Like, I saw one video of this guy who lived in the Bronx.
It is now the Mount Everest of, like, stairs. Like, people want to climb it.
It's like the Rocky Stairs now in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
everybody's going there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas that was, like we were saying before, a triumph for, like, getting to the top of those stairs. Like, when he starts to run, he can't get up there because he's not fit enough. He's not ready.
Yeah.
He can't make it. He's getting there, though. And then he keeps trying. Then by the end of the movie, he gets there. And, like, that's the... once he gets to the top of those stairs and he raises his arms in triumph, like, he's ready. He's ready
Except
to
this
fight.
time he's coming down and raising his arms in the air dancing.
And he's just descent
Dun-dun-dun.
into madness. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, he's descent into degeneracy.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
One's
you know?
building up, the other's coming down.
That's exactly right.
Fuck, that's
But
a good
yeah,
point.
massive tourist attraction now. Like everybody's going. I'd go if I was there.
Well, I've got to say,
and I get to the top. Hey!
I've got to say, though, ever since Watch the Joker, I'm happy to walk down escalators that have stopped working. Because now I go,
Hey! And everybody in the supermarket's like, what the fuck's
It's
wrong
like,
with this
fuck off
guy?
out of Woolies.
Jesus Christ,
He's
get out of
come
here.
here again.
Sir, can you please leave? I think I liked everything about this movie.
Me too.
It was just that tiny little kernel. It's just in the back of my mind. I'm like, I know it's just artifice. It's set dressing. It's fake. It's not real. I know it's trying to be that movie. And like, if you just watch Joker, it's pretty much as close to a carbon copy as Taxi Driver as you're going to get. But it is different in its own ways, but it is so similar as well. But yeah, it's just like watching that. I just know it's just one of those stupid little things you have in the back of your mind. You're like, why are you complaining about this? It was so good. And it's just that tiny little movie nerd thing in the back of my mind going, I know this is fake. That's a set. This whole apartment, that's not real. That's just a set on a soundstage. Whereas you watch like Taxi Driver, I'm pretty sure Travis Bickle's
In a way, it was sort of like
was
the
an
opposite.
actual apartment in New York City.
It was like the opposite of like CGI. You to be able to spot CGI, it's really poorly done CGI. This is like a set version of CGI where you just like doesn't feel.
But it's so well done. Like
It's well done.
Like in
yeah.
the trailer, you see him where at the start where he's dancing with the sign and stuff, and the kids knock the sign out of his hand, and that whole street looks really good. But I was thinking about it earlier today because I knew we were going to do this show, and I was just like, what movie have I seen, like a period piece movie recently? And I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Tarantino had entire, like, I don't know, whatever the street was in fucking LA, he had the entire thing converted to like 50s era Los Angeles. And there are all these great shots of like Brad Pitt driving down the street, and you get all these shots of and it just looks so much more real. I think it comes down to maybe the cameras, the way it's filmed. It's a different
Also, you
area.
gotta
LA is
consider-
much sunnier. It's much brighter.
Let's consider the costs that went into the Joker.
The Joker was a $50 million movie, whereas Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a $90 million movie.
Right.
But I think it's just the whole fact that, like, we know Gotham City is not a real place. It's pretty much a stand-in for New
true.
York.
But are you going to bring up the point about the costs of like...
I will. It was a $50 million movie. I read this article a few weeks ago because, like I said, there have been so many articles, many videos, so much about this movie written before, since, after it's come out. And I read this one article that, you know, what did Warner Brothers pay for like Justice League? They probably put $200 million plus into that. $25 million just into the reshoots, which didn't end up turning out very well. Didn't have time to finish the CG on Henry Cavill's face. It's not as good. Joker had a $50 million budget. I don't know if this is true or right, but I read an article that apparently Warner Brothers was so nervous about this movie and they were so unsure of it. Like I said, I don't know if this is true or not. This is unconfirmed. This is just an article I read. That apparently they split the costs with someone else. I don't know if it was another subsidiary, producers, another studio, a small business or whatever, or another business. I got no idea. But this article I read was Warner Brothers split the cost 50-50 with another entity. So it was $25 million a piece. Marketing, I don't know who covered that. Now that the movie's gone on to make almost $1 billion, it will tip over $1 billion before the end of its run.
Probably by the time this comes out.
Those profits now have to be split. If you were Warner Brothers and you were too scared to put $50 million into this little director-driven character study that's really a big focus and emphasis on mental health, as much as it is like a comic book story to be enjoyed or a realistic take on a character, to earn almost $1 billion and then you have to split it with someone else.
Oh, imagine that.
How would you
Imagine
feel?
being the person saying 25 mil, yeah, all right, we can do that, and then finding out that it is a smash success. And then sitting back going, oh, crap, we're rich.
Yeah, we're rich, biatch.
Hey, imagine if they're going to take that 500 mil and they're going to go, well, what other fucking little movies can we put this on? And then it might end up spawning all these amazing smaller indie movies that'll pop up out of nowhere.
Warner Brothers could do that. I could take more takes on different characters. Make little $50 million character pieces, you know? Give them to directors with vision. Let them play with it. You know, if you do say you did another DC character and you made it a $50 million movie, even if it turned around and it made double that, $100 million, you're still walking away with a smile on your face. Like a movie that came out earlier this year, the last show I did, the Hellboy reboot. That was a $50 million budget. That by the end of its run, I think it only just, I think I checked it a couple of weeks ago, I think it only just tipped back over 50 million by the end of its run. Like it just
broke even.
It didn't really break even because when you take into that's just the film budget, but then you got to take into marketing on top of that. Yeah. But it wasn't marketed very well, so they're running at a loss. But like when that movie came out, it had been out for a few days and it only made like $9 or $10 or $11 million, like in its first week, and you're just like, oh. But yeah, to do that, even if they made another $50 million movie and it turned around and made $200 million, you know, they're still laughing. Yeah. You know, instead of turning around, like I went and saw Terminator Dark Fate, and that movie I found out had a $185 million budget. First of all, for a Terminator franchise that they've tried to reboot 3 times, that is way too much money. And I watched the movie, I'm like, where did that money go? Like, did it all go into CG? Did it go into fees and bloody payments and shit like that? I mean,
well, all I know is they're not getting their money back.
No, that's a podcast for another
How much
day.
did they make?
They've only made like 127 million or something like that so far.
I heard it was like 28 mil.
Well, that's what they've made in the US, I believe. They've only made like 28, 30 million in the US, but the worldwide is only about 120 odd million dollars.
Now, in terms of the Joker, apparently, if they cut, I think it's about 20 or 30 seconds out of the film of certain things, they can release it in China on a PG rating, and then they can make a fuckload more. Possibly. Like, it wouldn't hurt. Like, if you wanted to do that, you probably could. Well, I don't think the director will, though. He seems
That's
like the
the
type
thing.
of guy
Like,
who'll be like, nah.
If it's a director's vision, like, to make... Like, this movie's already made so much money. This has made, like, 20 times its budget or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at math. It's made, like, 20 times its budget. If you had to compromise your vision to release it in another country where it could possibly make another 100, 200 million, is it really worth it? Is it worth your artistic integrity? Like, look, we've already made heaps of fucking money. Yes, we could make more, but we don't want to compromise this film we have. And that could go against hurting awards chances and that as well. Like, this money-hungry studio cut all this stuff out of this movie, 30 seconds to a minute of stuff out of the movie to release it in another country.
Are they going to get those awards, though, considering that they're not, like, pushing certain agendas, or if they were, like, the legacy media was saying this was going to happen or that was going to happen? It was a very polarizing movie.
I think it will get nominated in certain categories. Maybe best costume design, probably sound, maybe, cinematography, stuff like that. Cinematography. Stuff like that. Joaquin will probably get nominated, whether he wins or not. He probably will. Maybe he's got a better chance than most. I don't really see...
Who do you think will be getting in?
I don't really see too many movies coming out in the next 2 or 3 months that are really going to compete with him as much. I don't know. Maybe Tom Hanks for the bloody Mr. Rogers movie or whatever he's doing. Maybe just because that's Tom Hanks and that's a safer option. But maybe Joaquin. I think it might be his time. But the final thing I want to talk about, Russell, before we wrap it up, sequel. How would you feel about a sequel?
I'd watch it.
I would also watch it if it was Todd Phillips and that they came back.
If it was Todd Phillips and him, but there was a lot of talk, like Joaquin was making some jokes about it, but then they went and actually mocked up some pictures.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
If Todd Phillips and that wanted to come back, if they had a great idea for a story or another film for the character, not just making a sequel for sequel's sake, and then, like, we made all this money, we want to do a sequel, right, what can we do? If they've got a good idea, like, look, we've got these great ideas we didn't have a chance to explore in the first film, but we think that would make a great continuation. All right, we're going to give you, this time, a $60 million budget.
Watch out.
Yeah, well, like, we don't want too much more money, but we'll give you a little bit more. All right, we'll give you another $10 to $15 million.
We will put all the money in this time.
Yeah, but we will put all the money in this time. And we'll put it through. Like, yes, I would. Like, if all parties were interested and they wanted to come back, of course I'd go see it. But at the same time, there are some things that don't need sequels. Like,
No.
I would be just as happy if this movie was just a one-off. And I'm completely happy with that. I've
Well, this
spoken
is the
to
thing.
Patrick Brown at length about it,
Oh.
and Patrick Brown's all in for sequels. He wants more. It
Why
would
do you-
be,
why
it
do you
would be
think it-
stupid to have
How many kids has Patty got?
2.
Exactly. He loves sequels.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I'd definitely be up for it. But then again, I'm the same. I'd be happy to leave it and just enjoy it for what it was.
And just
And
to
think
watch
about
it
what
over and
Todd
over again
Phillips-
and pull different things from it and have different ideas and that and to not
I think Todd Phillips is going to get too many opportunities to come back and do it. I think they're going to see this and they're going to go, wow, well, this guy knows what he's doing.
yeah.
He can make a fucking lot of money.
Yeah.
All right, here you go. Here, do this. And then you go, okay, I'll do that.
That's the thing, like Joaquin's like a one movie at a time kind of guy. Like
Yeah.
he does this role, puts 110% into it, finishes it, and then moves on to the next thing.
Yeah.
He's not like a guy who has 5 movies lined up and then, you know, and he's not into sequels. He's not signing on for multi-picture deals
Has
and
he
stuff.
ever done a sequel?
Oh, geez, has he? I don't know. I don't know if he has. I don't think so. He might have done. Don't quote me. But, you know, he's not the kind of guy to do that. Like, there were rumblings, like, when Doctor Strange was coming out, he was being courted to play Doctor Strange,
Okay.
but the news at the time was that he was a bit apprehensive because he didn't want to sign a multi-picture deal, because
Yeah,
he kind of
that's
just wanted to
true.
do one, put 100% into it, and then move on.
That bird does not like to be caged.
Yeah, but from what I've read, like, he wasn't keen for a sequel at all. But then after, 2 weeks of doing this, he was having too much fun, and there was too much stuff that they just wanted to shoot. They just wanted to keep shooting all the time.
Well, that
And
whole
he had all
bathroom
the-
scene,
Oh my
that
God,
bathroom scene
that
was
was just improv, wasn't it?
improv.
That was just him.
He just got in to get a handy cam, go in there and film it with a handy cam.
Yeah.
That's a multi-million-dollar movie. Part of it was filmed with a handy cam.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking sick.
Apparently, I read yesterday, this was only yesterday, that when he decided, like, he'd be happy to do a sequel, like, he wanted to do more, he got the on-set photographer just to, like, take lots of photos and that of him, and then they mocked up, like, lots of different, like, previous films posters, like, you know, just, like, a Full Metal Jacket, or they did Yentl, but Joker's on the poster.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
just trying to show it to Todd Phillips and convince him to like, look, we could do a sequel. Like, can you imagine in different ways? But I was thinking about it yesterday, and I feel like if they did a sequel, this one's very inspired by 70s cinema. If they did a sequel, I would love them to do something completely different. Not, okay, we're going to do a sequel and it's going to be another 70s inspired film, or we're just going to move forward 5 years and we're going to do an 80s inspired one. Well, this was kind of teetering on 80s as well. You know, it
was on the cusp.
Yeah, it was kind of on the cusp, like Terminator 2, kind of the 80s into the 90s. You know, you can see the 80s and the 90s in that movie, you know. But if they did something completely different, they're like, we're not going to do 80s cinema, we're not going to do this, we're going to do, like, French expressionist cinema. This is the idea we're going to have. But, like, if they did something completely different, like, completely different inspirations and takes from different forms of cinema and that, and it came out and was just as good, but different, and, like, awesome.
All right, what
I would
about
be down
this?
for that. I don't want more of the same.
Joker Western movie
Oh, fuck, I'd watch that.
with Batman playing like a Lone Ranger sort of character.
A US Marshal
Yeah, U.S. Marshal Batman.
in Gotham, because it's not Gotham City. They just call it Gotham County.
Yeah, Gotham County. this is actually a really good movie.
Yeah.
I want this.
And then you've got the Joker gang.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got Batman and he's Robin.
Robin's the deputy.
He's deputy.
Yep.
Deputy Grayson.
I shot the deputy.
I love pretty much. I loved everything about this movie. It's just that stupid kernel I had in the back of my mind going, Jags, this isn't real. This is fake. This isn't like... But you couldn't do it now because New York is so different from what it used to be 40, 50 years ago. You know, it's a different place, different time. You know, so many things have changed. You couldn't do that. You couldn't just film on the streets there again. You know, it's such a different place. So to create it artificially, like... it's just one thing that, like, I just need to watch it again, and then I'll get that out of my system. I'll purge that from me.
Well,
you know,
what's this new Batman movie that's coming out? Isn't that meant to be like a callback to the original detective sort of?
Well, this is what I've always wanted because Batman is the world's greatest fucking detective, but in all these Batman movies, he never does any fucking detecting.
No,
like the only detecting he does is in The Dark Knight with the stupid chain gun. Where he fucking shoots into all the bricks. And I've seen that movie fucking, no joke, I've seen it about 90 fucking times, and I still don't understand what he's trying to fucking do in that scene. He's shooting into all the different bricks, it's fucking, and then he extrapolates it, but he ends up getting the fingerprint off the fucking bullet, the bullet shell, but then the Joker knew he'd do that, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? This is meant to be... It's meant to be like the closest thing we'd ever get to like an official, like the world of the comics.
Yeah.
Like it's Batman in Gotham. Gotham's already established. All these villains are there like they always are at all the times. And Batman's got a fucking case to solve. And it's been described as like a Sherlock Holmes fucking movie, but instead of Sherlock Holmes, you've got Batman. He's got a fucking mystery to solve, but his Moriarty in this movie is like the Riddler, but he ends up interacting with like, you know, talks to a fucking mugger on the street. What do you know about this? The penguin. I heard the penguin talking about it. He goes to see the penguin, fucking get information out of him, and then it's just a mystery.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I want Batman to be a fucking detective. And that's what I want. I don't need to have Batman fucking beating up goons or being in a fight scene every 10 minutes. You know, I don't need that. If I get Batman, the one thing I always wanted in a Batman movie, and the closest thing I got to it was in Batman v Superman, where Ben Affleck drives the Batmobile into the Batcave, and he walks up the stairs and he takes the cowl off. The amount of comic panels or books I've read where it's got Batman sitting in his chair at the bat computer with his head in his fucking hand in his bat suit without the cowl on, and he's just computering and he's detecting and he's trying to figure something out. The closest thing I ever got to that was in Batman v Superman, where Ben Affleck's standing at the computer, he's got his cowl off and he's dropped it and he's standing in a full outfit. I'm like, I fucking want that. I want Bruce Wayne the detective. I want Batman the detective. That's what I said to Pat when Batman v Superman came out, or The Dark Knight came out. I said, look, you could put across that Batman is a fucking detective, how intelligent he is. Like, in the Batcave, yeah, fair enough, he's got suits and that, he's got the giant T-Rex, he's got the giant fucking penny, he's got the big Joker card on the wall. You can have all that stuff. But you know what you could also have? You could have a shot panning across the wall to the Bat computer, and here's all these diplomas and doctorates and that up on the wall. Here's Bruce Wayne has got a diploma in fucking psychology. He's got a diploma in whatever. You can have him photos of him with cops and stuff. I don't know. All these places where he's learned and he's honed his brain. Not just his body, but his mind as well. You could have that. Like, show me Batman using his mind.
Yeah.
And get that across to the audience so the audience fucking knows. They just don't know Batman as the guy who turns up in the Batmobile and throws down a smoke bomb and beats up guys.
Well, there's a lot of heavy emphasis on Batman, not much Bruce Wayne. What's your thoughts on...
There has been before.
Oh, yeah. But what's your thoughts on Robert Pattinson?
Oh, fuck yeah.
I'm down for
absolutely.
him.
Robert Pattinson is a great fucking actor.
He got marred so much by Twilight. My wife loves the Twilight series.
The only problem is that because of those films that happened 10, 12, 13 fucking years ago. Have you seen... I guarantee all those people who'd love Twilight have not watched at least 3 Robert Pattinson films that he's been in since.
I don't think they've watched one.
He's done so many different things, so many small movies. He's worked with so many great directors. Like one movie I liked he did was Cosmopolis with David Cronenberg, where majority of the movie, like 3/4 of the movie, it's him in the back of a limousine driving around. Because I'm into like fucking weird shit and all these sorts of movies and that, and I love them, I eat them up. And I really liked that movie, but people just don't give him the time of day just because he played a glittering fucking vampire 15 years ago in a franchise and that. Now he's fucking tied to that forever. But yeah, he's good. He's got the right look. I like the idea of like a not so bulky Batman. I like the idea of like very toned, but
and a younger Batman too.
A younger Batman, because like in the comics, you know, like Bruce Wayne, Spider-Man, and that they're always in their kind of late 20s at the most. They're their early to mid 30s. You know, like Batman and that now. Like in the comics, if you looked at him, he's probably 30. Like 30,
bulky,
35 at the absolute most.
Bit of a dad bod cranking.
Yeah, but I like the idea. I read an article where apparently Colin Farrell's been courted as the Penguin. Paul Dano has been cast as a Riddler, which I think is perfect fucking casting. What's her name? Zoe Kravitz is Catwoman.
All right.
Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. Perfect fucking casting.
Who we got as the director?
Commissioner Gordon. Matt Reeves. So the last 3 films that Matt Reeves did, he did the last 2 Planet of the Apes films, so Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes.
They were good.
Or War of the Planet of the Apes. And he did Let Me In, which was the remake of Let the Right One In, the
sounds
vampire
like what
flick.
my cat carries on about.
But I really love Matt Reeves because he takes his time to develop projects, because, you know, if Warner Brothers had their way, they would have just pushed him straight into Batman and that movie would have been coming out later this year or early next year, something like that. But he's like, nope, I want to take my time, I want to start from scratch, I want to get a great script fucking locked in, and I've got 110% full confidence in Matt Reeves.
All right,
because his last 2 movies I fucking absolutely loved, especially the second of the Planet of the Apes, the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Was it Dawn? Because the first one was Rise, then Dawn, then War. But yeah, we did a review of War for the Planet of the Apes. It was one of our first shows. Go back and listen to it. It's actually pretty fucking good. Like that movie fucking wrecked the 3 of us when we watched it. God, that was a tough movie to sit through. I don't think I've watched it since, to be honest, because I know it's like a tough movie. It's like a prison movie. It's really fucking good, but really tough, kind of hard. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he'll do.
Awesome. Well, that was Joker.
Russell Redmond, would you recommend Joker to the 3 people that haven't seen it?
Well, to you guys, definitely. I'm sorry about the spoilers, but you're warned.
You've all seen it.
Yeah, you've seen it.
You've seen it. You've heard it.
No, definitely. I'd recommend it to anyone.
What would you give it out of 5?
Oh, I'd give it 4.5.
I would totally recommend it. I think when I go to the cinema, I gave it a 4. Like when I was driving home, I'm like, yeah, I think that's a 4 out of 5. That's a 4 out of 5 from me.
You're a lot stricter with yours than me. Like I like the Venom movies. Like you can't listen to me guys, don't listen to me when it comes to anything. When it comes to movies, I'm just happy to be out of the house.
Yep. I don't know. I'd have to watch it again. It'd probably be maybe a 5-star if I watched it again. I don't know. But I've fucking loved it. I loved the look. Joaquin was great. His physicality he brought to it, the dancing. Like just when he's about to go out into the Murray Franklin show and he's standing behind the curtain, you see him sort of start to dance. And I'm doing it now in front of Russell. Like he kind of starts to pose, and it's like he's getting into... He is that person, he is that character, but it's like he's getting into character again, you know. It's fantastic. I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. Loved another interpretation of the Joker. Give me more.
All of them. That's what we want.
Russell, thank you so much for coming in to talk about the Joker with me.
Yep, thanks for having me, mate.
No worries at all. We'll wrap this up. Thanks, everyone, for listening. You know where you can find us, and we'll see you next time on The Bearded Geeks. Hey!